So let's talk a little bit more about where we left off in the PTSD and general anxiety disorder, adjustment disorder, and how you're rated. So the first step, just to recap, is you've got to get the diagnoses from a medical professional that basically characterizes the nature of your illness, which is PTSD or anxiety adjustment disorder, depression, or sometimes they might be lumped all together depending on what you're dealing with. So you've got to have that first, okay? And if you don't already have that in your records, go see a private physician or a VA physician. And typically what will happen is you'll see like a PCM or some type of primary care doctor. And based on what you tell them, they'll refer you to a mental health specialist. And the mental health specialist then will make the correct diagnosis. So that's the first big part. The second step in the process, though, is making sure that you're getting treatment and that you're getting help. So what the VA representative is going to look for is, okay, you've got this diagnosis now for PTSD or some type of a mental disorder. What are you doing about it? And how is it currently affecting your life? So this is one of those times when, for me, I go to monthly meetings at the VA here in San Antonio. It's a group of veterans where we get together and we do mindfulness training, we do exercises, meditations, and we talk about various issues. So the treatment is occurring and it's reoccurring. On top of that, I take medication to help with some of the symptoms. The medication sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. It really just depends on the day and the time and the place. So regardless of the compensation piece of this, make sure that you're actively seeking help, because that's the most important thing is, you need to at least try to temper or make your conditions manageable for your life. So do that. That's the second step, is when you see the psychiatrist or the psychologist, make sure you're at least attempting medication. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, and that you're getting help, whether it's in a group setting or, hey, I'm doing mindfulness on my own, I'm doing meditation, I'm really trying to, cognitive behavioral theory, you may have heard that before as well, but that you're getting help. Okay. Any questions so far on the first two steps? Okay, I'll jump into the next step. So once you've got the diagnoses and you're seeking help, the next step is once you file. So if you've already filed, awesome, you're likely good to go. If you haven't filed, what I would make sure and encourage you to do is write and document a statement in support of your claim, and also get buddy letters for anyone who was with you during these incidents. The third way to document this is through incident reports. So I know in Afghanistan in 2011, we had a ton of rocket attacks, we had suicide bombers, we had active shooters. So, a lot of times those incidents are formally documented with the military, and those records, you can obtain them. But I also know that in many cases, incident reports are not documented. So that's where the statement in support of your claim and the buddy letters become critical, because what you're trying to show in step 3 is that an incident actually occurred. And the reason this is important is because the incident occurring needs to tie back to how it's service connected. Okay, so remember, you could be a veteran that suffers from PTSD. You have it, and you might have it bad. It maybe has messed up your whole life. But if you're not able to prove or claim the nexus between that it happened in service and that it was caused by your military service, you won't qualify for any benefits. So that's a key piece there, that you've got to make sure that there's a nexus with your military service and that service connected. Okay. So with that being said, if you don't have incident reports or your medical records don't document or portray the story that you're telling, that's where you need to personally write a statement in support of a claim or get a buddy letter that validates what happens. And after this call, what I'll do is I'll post a real example of that in the Facebook group, so you can see how I wrote it and how I certified the statement, and then attached it to my record. Any questions on that so far?
I just have a quick question about the Facebook group. Is there just one Facebook group?
Yes, sir. So it's called the VA Claims Insider Mastermind. Are you in the group?
You know, I thought maybe I was just in your group.
It should be called the VA Claims Insider Mastermind. You know what we'll do, Daniel, is once we leave the call, let's make sure you have access. And if you don't, the issue that I've seen is I can invite you by your email address.
Yeah.
But that email address has to be the one that you use to create your original Facebook account.
Oh,
and
okay.
If it's not, it might be better if we just become friends, and then I'll add you to the group. Okay?
Okay. Yeah,
Cool.
I think I'm in that same situation too. I'll wind up on your, I didn't mean to run over you, but I'll wind up on your personal page, and I couldn't find this other Facebook page that you're speaking of.
Oh, got it. I'm sorry about that, guys. So you know what I'll do is when we're done, I'm going to send a note out to everybody with a link for how you can join and get access. And if for some reason that doesn't work, I'll also post my personal Facebook account. So if you friend me, I can easily add you to the group, because that's critical. I mean, that's really where a lot, besides the monthly calls, that's really where a lot of our communication is going to take place. So I definitely want to make sure that you have access. So thank you for bringing that up.
I just put the link to the group in the chat too, Brian.
Awesome. So, thanks, brother.
If you guys are on Facebook, you can just click on that link, and then there should be a button that either says join or request to join, and then Brian can just approve you too.
Awesome. Thank you, John, for doing that. Okay. Any other questions before we kind of jump into step 4? Okay. So just to recap, you've have the official diagnosis. You are seeking treatment, getting help, and you've documented how your mental condition is affecting your life. The fourth step then is the VA is ultimately going to start documenting every time you see a mental health professional. So the reason why this is so critical, and I've posted this in the Facebook group, there's something called the PCLM. And what it is it's an assessment of you and your current mental health condition every time you see a psychiatrist. So, for example, even now, every time that I go to the VA in San Antonio, every time I see the mental health professional, they give me an actual paper copy of a form, and they say, hey, before we get started, Brian, please fill this out for me. And it's check marks. And there's about 10 to 15 questions, and they rank from not at all to absolutely severe. And all you do is you place a check mark in each one. So an example might be something like, I've considered suicide. And, it's either not at all or yes, I'm considering suicide right now. That document is then translated by the psychiatrist, the mental health professional, every single time you see him, into something called the GAF score, which stands for Global Assessment of Functioning. And it's a scale from 0 to 100. The lower the number, the more severe your mental condition in PTSD is. The higher the number, the less severe it is. So, for example, I have, and this is another reason why I've told you guys to make sure you get copies of your medical records from the VA and your private physicians, is you're going to want to go read the notes that are being inputted by your medical professionals, and then you're going to want to read where is your GAF score, that Global Assessment of Functioning. So I'll use me as an example. During the kind of the most difficult times for me, when I would go in and fill out that form, my GAF score typically ranged between 40 and 55, which is fairly severe. I mean, a fairly severe level of PTSD. Again, the lower the number, the more severe. The higher the number, the less severe. So if you have a GAF score of 90, the chance of you getting a high service-connected rating for some type of mental disorder or adjustment disorder is pretty low. Whereas if you've got a GAF score in the 10, 20, 30, 40, even 50 range, I mean, the chances of you getting a 50% service-connected rating or higher is quite high. Because, and this is where this is important. So before I go to the next step, do you guys have any questions on what I just mentioned, that the PCLM form, every time you go in, you're assessed, and then eventually that assessment is turned into a number called your Global Assessment of Functioning score?
Yeah, I remember doing that whenever I went to that treatment. I think when I started, mine was like in the high 20s, low 30s.
Got it.
And then when I finished my treatment, it was around in the 50s, low 60s, somewhere around there.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I'm glad to hear that, at least you got some improvement over time. But the lower numbers, I mean, they're very, very severe cases of PTSD. I've worked with a number of veterans who were in some really, really tough places, much darker than I was in, fortunately, but we kind of helped them dig out. So I'm glad that you were able to share that. Thank you.
I don't remember seeing anything like that on mine. I don't remember seeing any numbers. I have about 400 pages of mental health records. I spent some time in the hospital.
Yeah.
And so for PTSD, so I would think that would probably drive a scale too.
Yeah, you're right. It absolutely would. So one of the things you might want to do, though, Daniel, is try to comb through those the best you can. And what it might come out into is it's actually called like an axis report. And those axis ranges are from 1 to 5. So 1 is your actual diagnosis. So for you, it would be, post-traumatic stress disorder, adjustment disorder. And then axis 5 is where they actually assign that GAF score. So if you have all of that documentation, when we're done today, you might want to go back and look. They might actually have that GAF score assessed in your records. So you can go back and take a look at that. Anything else from anybody before we jump on? All right. So once you sort of know your GAF score, once you kind of generally know where you fit, the VA rater on the other side is going to review every piece of documentation that they can find or that you submit. Okay. And there is no this is where it gets a little bit tricky. And this is why I'm a huge advocate of statements in support of your claim. There is no true, regardless of what anybody will tell you, there is no direct corollary between your GAF score and your final rating. There are metrics but they're not hard and fast. It still depends on how the disability is currently affecting you. Hey, real quick, somebody's, it looks like the lead camera is on. John Ramsted, are you still on? It looks like maybe Richard has the stick on driving. I'm not sure. Let's take a look at that. Oh, hey.
No, you're the host, bud.
I'm the host? Okay, cool. All right, no worries. Thank you. Okay, so we'll just, we'll continue on. So like I said, there is no hard and fast measurable metric that ties your GAF score to a specific rating, but there are metrics. So generally speaking, if your GAF score is between 40 and 55, you're typically looking at 50% disability or higher, somewhere like 50 to 70. But this is also where it's critical for you to go back. Title 38, I mean, right in the CFR. If you've watched my masterclass video, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's really about keywording your current rating. So I think kind of the expert tip here is you should generally know where you fall on the mental disorder adjustment scale based on your GAF score. You'll have a general idea of where you fall. Of course, 100% rating means you literally cannot work. Your PTSD or your anxiety and adjustment and depression is so bad that you can't hold a job. So, I mean, that's obviously very severe and scary. And I mean, you need to get help, of course. But anywhere below that, if you look at like the 70% rating, the 50% rating, the 30% rating, there are some very specific words and verbiage in there that explain why a veteran should be assigned that rating. So if you haven't seen my masterclass video, go back and watch that because I walk through that in detail. So, you know, a good example would be like, you know, 50% for PTSD is something along the lines of, you know, severe issues affecting, you know, many issues across your life, your work, your relationships, panic attacks more than one time per week, medication included, but not necessarily effective, something along those lines. But go back and look at those keywords because when you're writing that statement in support of your claim, and when you're talking to a mental health professional, you're going to want to use that language back to them. Hey, I'm suffering from panic attacks. I'm having issues with my spouse. My relationship has suffered. I'm having trouble connecting with people at work. I feel like I'm less productive. You know, you're going to want to make sure that that information gets captured formally, because when those records go to the VA rater, they're going to read every word. And based on what the mental health professional wrote, based on what you wrote, and then based on your story, they're going to then match that level of condition up to the actual service-connected rating, if that makes sense. So before we go on, any questions on that step?
Yeah, you know, whenever I went to see them, they wanted to put me on medication, but I'm a private pilot, fly recreational flight, and in fact, that's my only pure natural serenity that I get. And if they put me on that medication, then I would no longer be able to do that, or I'd have to file it with the FAA, and they had to look on it and judge me case by case basis. Basically, I wouldn't be able to fly anymore. So I told them I'm not taking that medication.
Yeah, I definitely understand. You know, thanks for sharing that. So it's absolutely, the medication piece actually really doesn't play into your rating unless, this is the critical piece. If you're taking medication for your mental disorder or PTSD and it's working, to the point where you're taking the medication and you no longer have symptoms, you'll pretty much automatically be assigned a 10% rating. It's right there in the rating scale. Symptoms of post-traumatic stress or adjustment disorders, but it's able to be controlled by medication, 10%. So think about what that means, the difference between 10%, 30%, 50%, 70%, 100%. If your PTSD is totally managed by medication, you're likely not going to get higher than 10%. So in your case, if you're not on medication, that's okay. You just really need to be sure that you explain in detail how it's affecting you, why you're not taking medication. Maybe say something like, the medication doesn't help. It doesn't work. That's why I'm not taking it. Or I am taking it, I've tried it, and it doesn't work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got you.
I had a friend of mine who, how you were saying, and I understand what you're saying when you say that sometimes medicine works, sometimes it doesn't, depends on the stressors in life, depends on the day. Well, this friend of mine, a former pilot, lieutenant colonel, went in for PTSD, and he was actually having a really good day. Sometimes you have a really good day, sometimes you have horrible days, And he went in for his evaluation, and the psychiatrist came in and talked to him, and his medicine just, they tried a new medicine and it seemed to be working, and told her that everything's great, everything's fantastic, I feel good, this new medicine is working. I don't have any symptoms, and I think the whole thing lasted about 5 minutes, and basically he didn't even get zero. He didn't even get a zero rating. He got absolutely nothing. So the lesson there was, I know you can't help but go in with whatever you're feeling that day, good day or bad day, but I guess you don't want to present like it's the best day of your life. And then later the medicine, just like you've probably experienced or I've experienced, fails to work as well as it should, or you try a different one and can't quite, I've never been able to get it dialed in exactly. One causes me depression, one causes me anxiety, one causes, all sorts of different things. So I haven't been lucky like that, but he kind of hurt his claim by having a good day, I guess.
Yeah. So really what I think the focus here is, and thanks for that, Daniel. What a perfect example of the story here. When you go in to see these folks, you can't have your best day. And even if you're having your best day, what I would suggest doing is you really need to tell them what's going on in your worst day, not how you're feeling in that moment. Because I'm in the same boat as you guys. I've got good days and bad days. My best days, I feel like I'm the old me. My worst days, I feel like I'm not even Brian. I don't know who I am or what I'm doing. So when you go in to see them, the answer should not be when they say, "Hey, how are things? Dr. Daniel, how's life? How's everything being a vet?" "No, I'm great. I'm on this new medication. I'm good to go, and I'm not really sure why I'm here right now." If you say something like that, I can pretty much guarantee you will get nothing. And you're right, they might not even say it's service connected. Whereas on the flip side, if you come in and they ask you how you're doing, and you say, I'm really not doing good at all, and here's why. I'm waking up with night terrors. My relationship with my spouse and my family has suffered greatly. I'm going through, maybe you're going through a divorce or a separation. My anxiety is so bad that I cannot go out in a public place. I can't enjoy activities anymore like I used to because I'm afraid. I'm scared. I'm, wondering if the guy walking by with a backpack has a bomb in it. Those things need to come out. And so the advice I would share with you there is, I know we're all tough guys, right? I'm the same way. I try to hold things in and be strong and plow through it myself. Whenever you meet with somebody, though, this is not the time to be the tough guy or gal. This is the time to be vulnerable. And because the words that are written down in your record are ultimately what's going to determine your rating. Does that make sense? Anything there before I go to the next step? All right. So the next step, once all of this has happened and you're getting continuing treatment, and they've determined that it's service connected, whether you're on medication or not, whether the medications are helping or not, is really beside the point, because all of this leads to a culmination. And that culmination is something called the compensation and pension exam, the C&P exam. It's a fancy term. It's a fancy word for simply saying the VA schedules you for a medical appointment to go in, and somebody from the VA, whether it's a contractor or an actual VA physician, is going to make the determination that what you're claiming is actually happening and is actually true. I will tell you that the Comp and Pen exam, the C&P exam, is the most important and critical day in determining your final rating. Absolutely, hands down, the most important day. So Daniel, you hit on, don't come in there and have your best day. This is totally that time that if you come in and say you're all good, you're going to get nothing. And you might have very severe symptoms that affect you 80% of the time, and you just are happening to have a good day. So just a little bit more detail on what happens. Once you've filed, so walking through the steps, you've already filed for a service-connected disability for some type of a mental disorder, PTSD, anxiety, schizophrenia, chronic adjustment disorder, depression, whatever. It's been determined service-connected. You're seeking help, whether you're on medication or not. At this point, you filed your claim with a VSO. Hey, I have PTSD and I'm seeking service-connected compensation. Once the VA claims office processes your claim, you're going to get a letter in the mail and likely an e-notification saying that you've been scheduled for a compensation and pension exam. And here's the date and time. Here's where you need to report. And here are the appointments that you have for that day. I have seen cases where a veteran might hit every appointment in one day. I've seen situations where it might happen over 2-3 days or weeks or months. It just really depends on the VA's scheduling. So I'll use me as a perfect example because I want you just to kind of picture in your mind how this looks and how this happens. I was living in Boston at the time. I was about 9 months out of active duty and received a letter in the mail saying, hey, the VA healthcare system in Boston wants to see you. Here are your appointment dates and times. Here's who you're going to see, and here's where you need to be. Now, one quick cautionary tale. Do not, for any reason, miss your Comp and Pen exam. If you don't show up or if you're late, the VA has grounds to deny your claim. I've actually seen it happen. Whether or not that's fair, we could probably debate that all day. I think it's horrible, but I've seen vets in that situation before. They've got an exam scheduled. It took them 6 months to do, and the person didn't show. You are truly setting yourself up for failure because that is the most important day of your claim, period. Any questions before I go into seeing the physician?
About how long after initially filing your claim did that day show up?
It was about 6 months. So I filed the claim with my VSO, and about 6 months later, I got scheduled for the exam. I think at about month 9 was the actual exam. And then at 13 months, they issued my final rating. So it took a year and a month to finish the whole claim. So from cradle to grave of when I filed to when my decision was issued. The VA, to answer your question though, to present day, this was in 2012, and the VA's gotten better. They've gotten faster. They've fired folks. They've hired a lot more people to help with this because of all the OIF, OEF vets who have pending claims. At the time when I filed, there were over 1 million claims in backlog from Korea, Vietnam, everything. OIF, OEF, Desert Storm, Desert Shield. To date, the current number, there's about 300,000 claims in backlog. So, if you kind of track backwards, your claim should be decided and figured out between 6 and 9 months. But it just really depends on how many vets are filing claims and how long they take the folks to process. Does that help?
Yes.
Good.
Hey, Brian, I have a question.
Sure.
Whenever I filed my initial claim, PTSD or any type of mental health wasn't on that claim.
Yeah.
And they did send me to go see a psychologist for evaluation. Now that I did file a claim, or am I going to see another one, or are they going to send me back to another one, or what do you think will happen with that?
Yes, sir. So are you referring to you had already filed a claim and you got a decision and now you're going to go back and add PTSD? Is that what you mean?
Right.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I filed an appeal to my original claim, and within filing that appeal, I filed an appeal to PTSD, and the lady said, "Well, you didn't file PTSD to begin with." And I said, "Well, that should have been on there. I need to do that." And she said, "Well, I'll go ahead and lock today's date in, being that you're telling me this." And I said, "Well, what will they attach it to my original claim?" And she said they might. If not, you'll file a new claim. And that's where I'm at on it.
Yeah. So, okay. I think I understand. So what they told you is correct. You likely won't get back pay if let's say that you go through the process and they say, "Yep, you have PTSD," and they rate you for that new one. That will be added cumulatively to your current rating, and they may or may not look at retroactive pay, retroactive benefits. It just really depends on how well you write your statements and how well you can track back to why you didn't file for it originally. So that's a key piece there, but we can certainly take that discussion offline as well. I'd be happy to assist adding that to your record if it's already there, and just really making sure that you've crafted a strong case. So that's a good point, though. Any other questions, folks, before I kind of step in? And the good news is I think we're going to wrap up a little bit early. I know it's the holiday weekend, and I want everyone to go enjoy time with friends and family. So anything else before the next couple steps?
Hello.
I hear you. Who's that?
Oh, okay. This is Leo Pacheco, and I'm calling out of Farmington, New Mexico.
Leo, how you doing, brother? Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I'm doing really good.
Good.
But I won't tell that to the people at the VA.
Good idea. Take your worst day.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, the question I have is, I had an appointment set up, and I filed a claim, and I had the appointment set up, and I called them because I wasn't able to make it. But they never responded, so I went down there anyways, and the gentleman that I saw said that it was canceled. You should have got something, but I didn't get anything. I didn't get an email. I didn't get any a letter, and I did get the letter the week after.
Sounds like
But,
the VA.
yeah, definitely. So I didn't add anxiety.
Hey, Leo, just so you know, I think we're catching a bunch of wind in the background. Is there any way you can maybe duck in under somewhere?
How's this? Better?
Yeah, it's better. Cool. Thank you.
Okay. I didn't claim the anxiety that I'm getting, and also the tinnitus that I have. How would I be able to introduce that to those guys?
Sure. So it's okay. The good news is, Leo, in your situation, you canceled your CMP exam, and the VA got it and sent you a notification, even though it was later. So that won't be held against you at all. The key point now is, and what you and I can do together is make sure that we craft your statements in support of your claim, any buddy statements or anything we want to add there, and go back and refile. And once you refile and add those, so PTSD and tinnitus, to your current claim or rating, you'll receive separate notifications again from the VA saying, hey, we received your notice of intent to file. We received what you're talking about with your claim, and we're now scheduling you for a CNP exam in 6 months.
Okay.
So the good news in your situation is you've bought yourself some time. I think that was probably a smart move. I remember you and I had exchanged some emails about that topic, and you were concerned about being ready. You didn't feel like you were ready to go in, if I remember right.
Yeah, that's right.
Good. So I think that's good. I think what you did was spot on.
I know.
Anything else?
Cool. No, that's all I've got, bud.
Awesome. Again, belated happy birthday, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just kind of track a little bit more forward. So you're at this exam now. In the CNP exam, on that day, you're actually going to meet with a VA psychiatrist, physician, mental health professional, whether they're a contractor or an actual VA physician. The key thing here is that person that you meet with, they are going to have already received and read, hopefully, every piece of medical documentation that you've submitted about your PTSD or your anxiety or just adjustment disorder, excuse me. They're going to know what you've already said. And they're also going to know the history on how you've been treated, where you've been going, medications you're taking, groups you're a part of. They're going to know all of that already. Okay. Now, when you go to talk to them, though, what they're looking for is, like I mentioned before, they're trying to validate that what you've said in your claim is actually true and it's actually currently affecting your life. And the way that they do that, and this is I don't want to call it trickery, but they start at the basic story. I mean, think of any book. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. The same is true with your life. There's a beginning of how you were raised, where you're from, groups you hung out with, school situation, family situation. There was a middle. Hey, I joined the military. I went off to war. I had some issue happen to me. And there's an end. Hey, I separated from active duty and my issues are currently affecting me. So it's just like a book. Beginning, middle, end. That physician is going to start asking you questions on those exact three areas: the beginning, the middle, and the end. So as a personal example, when I met with the VA mental health physician in Boston, he asked me, his first question was, hey, Brian, how you doing? Thanks for coming in today. Well, the answer is not, I'm doing great and I love my life and I'm not sure why I'm here, right? The answer is, I'm not doing so good, man. And here's what's going on. And I can't sleep. There were a couple situations, as truth in advertising, where, basically I drank alcohol till I passed out. My anxiety was so bad. And so I shared just some of those situations with him. And, he was very compassionate, very open to listening. And after we had that initial conversation, he said, tell me, Brian, a little bit about your background. Where are you from? Do you have any siblings? Tell me about your mom and dad. Tell me about where you grew up, all of that. How was your childhood? The reason they're asking those questions is they're trying to determine if some type of condition, PTSD, mental anxiety, whatever it is, schizophrenia, they're trying to determine if you had a preconceived or a precondition that predated your military service. Because remember back to what I said, if it's not considered service connected, you get nothing. So this is also the point where you've got to really understand what this person's asking you. And, I was just very honest with them. Hey, I was born and raised in Minnesota. I've got an older brother. He's incredible. My mom and dad are both teachers. They're great people and mentors to me. And, I had a great upbringing. I didn't have any issues. My issues didn't start until I went to war. So that's what when they asked you to tell your story, that's the reason they're asking it, is they're trying to determine if what is happening to you happened prior to you joining the service. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Anything on that before I jump to the middle and the end there? All right. So then what they're going to do is once you've shifted from telling them about your childhood and your upbringing and, maybe any special situations, they're going to jump to your military service. And they're going to ask, hey, you joined in 1985. You were right out of high school. You commissioned right out of college. Tell me about the work environment. Tell me about where you were stationed. Tell me about your bosses, your leadership. Did you deploy during this time? Did you have any situations happen? I've had, male vets who have been sexually assaulted, female vets who've been sexually assaulted. And so that's one other key point here. PTSD or any type of mental disorder does not have to be caused by a wartime situation at all. It can have nothing to do with, I deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, whatever. It could be I was sexually assaulted. It could be I had something happen at home station with my boss that triggered incident XYZ. So I think that's a common misconception. Your PTSD or your mental disorder does not have to be deployment related. So everybody knows that. Okay. So they're really then at that point asking about your military service because they're determining, okay, we went through step one, had a decent childhood, nothing too horrible. Maybe this was caused by this veteran's military service. Okay. So just be truthful, be honest about any stressors you dealt with, any situations that happened, deployments and things like that. And then the final step is one of the most critical as well, where they're going to ask you how it's currently affecting your life. So now that you're no longer in the military and serving, what are the issues you're dealing with day to day? And, they may ask you questions like, tell me about what you do now. Are you working? Is it full-time, part-time? Tell me about your career history, your transition. tell me about work relationships, friends, family situations, children. They want to know what's currently going on. And all of that, again, ties back to, was this a precondition, yes or no? Did the military cause or worsen your PTSD? And then finally, how is it currently affecting your life? So once you've wrapped that up, I mean, I think my C&P exam with the psychiatrist maybe took 30 to 45 minutes. They took a ton of notes, which of course made their way into to my official file. And all of that documentation, including what you filed, and then what the mental health professional has written down of, hey, this was the C&P exam. Brian came in and here's what he told me. Here's what I documented. All of that information then gets packaged and sent to somebody at the VA who specializes in claims for that disability. So one claims processor will not review every condition you filed for. They specialize in certain areas. So somebody who specializes in PTSD, of course, sees a ton of claims for PTSD, and they know what they're looking for, and they know the keywords that determine the rating. So this goes back to my 9 secret strategies on serve your claim up on a silver platter. You want to actually lead the VA claim rater to the exact rating that matches your condition based on the keywords. So when you go back and you look at that scale of the mental adjustment disorders scale, you're going to generally know where you fall, whether it's 10%, 30%, 50%. I do remember, I'll just share this as a personal example. I do remember when I filed, I figured I was about 50% based on my GAF score, based on the notes that I had read, and based on the keywording. I also had 2 military members I served with in Afghanistan write sworn statements about being with me during these attacks and incidents that happened and what they've noticed in me. I figured I was right about 50%. Now, what was interesting is I was actually rated 70%. And if you followed the news at all and the legislation on PTSD, the VA has been getting hammered lately in veterans claiming that, hey, I should have been 50% for PTSD and I got 30. Hey, I should have been 30 and I got nothing. So I think what's happened, I haven't actually seen the memorandum, but I've heard a rumor that the VA claims adjusters have been told, if in doubt, assign the higher rating. So I think what's happened, and again, that also avoids then you refiling, which creates a whole nother mess for them. So I think what happened is I was probably about at the 50%. And because of my statements in support of the claim, because of how severe my symptoms were, they actually assigned the higher rating, is I think what happened. So take that for what it's worth. That should still be going on now. I don't want to get your hopes up that, you should be 30 and you're going to get 50, but the reality is you might actually get a higher rating than you think. And so that's the process in a nutshell, from cradle to grave. Typically after your comp and pen exam, it takes anywhere from 2 to 5-6 months for them to issue their final rating. And remember what we talked about, disability ratings are not cumulative. So, if you're 10% for tinnitus and 20% for your knee, you're not 30%. There'll be some kind of a factor or a formula that adjusts downward to what you'll actually be rated. Okay, so it's 11:34. Like I said, I want to get you guys out of here early. It is Friday of Labor Day weekend. Is there anything that I missed or didn't cover, or is there anything that you have questions on that that I might be able to answer right now?
No, Brian, I'd like to just maybe either through email or phone conversation talk to you at a later date on just a few items.
Sure.
That's
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So I think I've mentioned to, for sure, all the mastermind members before, I'm available all the time. I answer every single email that I get, always. That's just who I am. That's how I'm wired. And if we want to jump on, one-on-one calls, if you'd rather, feel more comfortable sharing something about your situation one-on-one, I'm certainly happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Brian, I've got a question.
Sure. Who's this?
Leo.
Hey, Leo.
Hey, hey. Since my initial disability, what is that? The rating. It was in 2010, and since then I've had other symptoms come up, but I haven't sent that medical information in. Do I send it in? Should I send it in, or should I just hand carry it in?
Yeah. Okay. So I think I understand.
Yeah.
What I would recommend doing. Do you have an e-benefits account, Leo?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. So I think I would do two things just to make sure it gets there. The first would be, you can add a disability on your own, and then you can actually upload files. So if you've got medical records or statements in support of a claim, you can actually upload them from your home computer, and they'll be inserted into eBenefits, which is a part of your official file. So that's the first thing. The second thing is get back with your VSO. So whether it's AMVETS or DAV or American Legion, whoever is assisting you in your claim, get in touch with them and let them know, hey, I've got an intent to file for tinnitus and an increase in my PTSD or my back or whatever it is, and make sure that that person, your VSO, has everything that they're going to then submit on your behalf. So I think everyone knows at this point, do not file a claim on your own. Whatever you do, don't do it. And don't pay anyone to file your claim. In fact, just a quick, little bit of a corollary. I'm not a VSO and I'm not a lawyer. I am literally steeped into the education business at the front or pre-end, where I can share everything with you so that you get the rating you deserve. But I don't file claims, and I'm not a lawyer. So if anybody ever comes around that says, hey, I'll file your claim for you, it's, $1,000. Don't do it. There's everyone out there who's free that will do that for you, and they're trained and certified by the VA to do those things on your behalf. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely, sir. Anybody else? We've got, I'll stay on as long as you want.
Can you talk a little bit about, I read somewhere where you have to be able to differentiate if you have more than one mental disorder. Say you have PTSD and you also have bipolar. One's covered by the VA, the other's not. You have to be able to demonstrate that the symptoms that you have are actually PTSD and not caused by the other, say, like bipolar.
Right. So that's sort of true. So what I found, and definitely if you go back to the master class, I think I actually brought it up, and you know what, maybe I haven't posted my statement in support of a claim for PTSD, but what I would recommend doing in that situation is you've got to be a little bit careful on how you're characterizing your condition, because ultimately that's not your decision. It's the VA rater's decision based on your documentation to say what your condition is. However, if I go in and look at my file, I actually have a number of things claimed that there's a note next to them that says also claimed as. And so even though those things weren't rated, they were lumped into PTSD. So I think as an example, I put in my statement in support of a claim, post-traumatic stress disorder, chronic adjustment disorder, anxiety, panic attacks, and depression caused by a military deployment to Afghanistan. So in that case, what I did is I really wanted to leave the door open for them to assign and rate them either individually or lumped all together. What I've seen them do more lately is they'll take whatever condition is the worst, and they will just assign that one rating, and they'll lump everything else up into it. So for example, my PTSD is rated at 70%. My depression is not rated at all. My anxiety is not rated at all. My panic attacks is not rated at all. But it's a part of the overarching condition, which is PTSD. Does that make sense?
Right. It does.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Education.
Anybody else? So what was that, Leo?
Education.
What? I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, I went back to school. I'm actually going to college right now, and I need to get a. Thank you. Is there anything that I could do through the VA to get assistance to get a laptop and a printer?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think?
It's possible. I only know of one person who was able to get actual physical products, and it has to normally be related to your disability. So the veteran was assigned a laptop that had voice activation systems because they had lost one of their limbs in OIF. So
okay.
It's true. I don't know exactly, Leo, what your situation is. I'd be happy to talk to you offline.
Okay.
It's possible, but not likely. What's more likely, though, is that we can find some ways to get you a lot of money to help you pay for school. And that would be on top of the post 9/11 GI Bill benefits, which are great, but either not everybody qualifies or not everybody gets what they should be getting. So I can teach you and show you how you can get some additional cash to help support that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Congrats on new school. And how did you just start, or?
Yeah, I just started last week, and I'm really, really enjoying it. Gosh, it's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Brian, or do you have a separate video, or are you going to hold a webinar on, you had mentioned something about applying for scholarships for anybody who's receiving 10% or higher disability. Yeah. Do you have videos out there on that? Where to apply for those? Yeah,
I don't yet, but I will. I'm glad you brought that up. I'll actually take a note to do that. What the main thing is right now, it's out of cycle. I mean, because we're basically fall semester of 2016, the scholarship window's not open right now. But what I'll show you guys as we get a little bit down the path here, come December, January timeframe, the scholarship window opens, and I will walk through step by step what you need to do. You know, how you write your essays, how you show that you're married, how you show this is a dependent or it's for you, the institution, your plan of study, all of that stuff. And I mean, I will tell you, totally blessed that our family has received over $8,000 in direct educational benefits for tuition, fees, books since 2014. And yeah, it's real, and I'd be happy to show that. The only reason why I would say maybe I won't do it now is the scholarship window is not open right now anyway. So it'd be best to wait a few months.
Okay, good. Yeah, I have a dependent kid that just started college, and I had to write a pretty healthy check. And originally I tried to apply for some scholarships to various places and started getting a bunch of spam and junk email. So I just shut down the window on that and figured it was, for my sanity, it was better for me to cut the check. So
yeah, that's tough. So I mean, I think you made the right decision. College is unbelievably expensive, whether it's university or graduate's even more expensive sometimes. But this is very real. And I mean, your son or daughter, whoever that is, you'll get up to probably $5,000 a year in direct benefits for them through this program.
okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Anybody else? We've got, wow, we're actually looking really good on time. Did anyone have anything else that they want to add before we jump off here? And then, like I said, I'll be sure to post this inside the Facebook group, and I'll make sure to check Facebook to invite and welcome you all back in. Any last takers? And then I've got one last thing to share with you. Okay, so the last thing I want to share is just thanks. Thank you for your service and for everything that you've done for our country. I understand. I'm a vet, so I'm here for you all the time. And just know that that you're not alone in this process, whatever it is, no matter how dark it is. And the other thing I would just encourage you to do is, once you're in the Facebook group, that's a private, I'm sorry, it's actually a secret group. So nobody can even search for it and find it if they're not a member. So because you guys are members, though, everything that we post in there, all the discussions, anything that I upload, those are resources for you guys. They're for people who have stepped up and said, I want to be a part of this, get the compensation I deserve, get the educational benefits I deserve. But I need to know, and what I'm asking you is, I need to know your situation. So if you've got a question, if something's just on your mind at midnight on a weekday, post it in the group, and I will respond to it. And the idea there is we're helping everybody at the same time. So I mean, it's very likely that if you have the question, somebody else has the question too. Okay.
All right.
Awesome. Well, hey, you guys are great. I hope this was valuable for you. I love teaching and sharing. So I hope you got a ton out of this. And again, I'm happy to take any of these discussions offline or one-on-one with you guys. So God bless you and your families. And I wish you just an awesome, awesome weekend. Okay.
Hey, thank you, Brian, and the rest of y'all.
All right, guys.
God bless.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
take care, guys.